Welcome back to my channel. My name is Bridget and this is the Sherwood Urban Farm. In today's video, we are going to dive into the art of tomato trellising. Whether you're a seasoned gardener or you're just starting out, this video is going to be packed with tips on how to grow productive, healthy tomato plants. Let's get started. Before we get to the how-tos, let's start with the whys. Why do you want to trellis your tomatoes? Well, tomatoes, there's two types of tomatoes. You get the determinate and then you get the indeterminate ones. So the indeterminate ones are your vining ones. I mean, they can get like 3 meters in length. If you have that growing all along your garden bed on the soil, then pests and diseases can get in onto the plants and onto the leaves. So when you've trellised them up, then there's much better circulation of air, so that prevents like your powdery mildew and stuff. And also if the fruit is lying on the ground, then all kinds of critters are going to start eating the tomatoes on the ground. Now, what I found with my tomatoes, when I do the determinate tomatoes, this is what I'm going to show you, I prefer to have a single lead, and then sometimes the single lead I will allow to split into 2 leads. Then I will prune them off so that it just stays like that. So then it focuses all its attention on producing beautiful sweet tomatoes. With the determinate tomatoes, these are ones like your Roma tomatoes. They will only grow a certain height. Now I made a mistake. And I had grown a type of tomato which I didn't know what it was. I just called them Big Red last year. So then I went and I did exactly the same as what I do with like my cherry tomatoes or with the cocktail tomatoes. And I allowed it only to have 1 lead. And I still got very big, beautiful tomatoes. But this year I'm going to do it differently. I'm just going to allow it to have as many branches and sub branches and little shoots as it likes, so that it can produce as many tomatoes as it wants to. When you start with your tomato planting, you need to prepare your bed. So with no dig gardening, it is very easy. All you need to do is to layer about 2 centimeter, 3 centimeter layer of compost over the top of your bed, which you would then just rake evenly. Here I'm first going to clear out the bed, because this bed I had allowed to overwinter because it doesn't get any sun. So whatever was growing there from the last season, I just let it die down and stay as sort of like a blanket over the top of over the soil surface. And then I'm just going to lay out the compost and then just rake that across. And now my bed is actually prepared. You could possibly, if you really wanted to, and I've only done it once, I can't say that it made any difference, is take your garden fork and just stick it in and pull back a bit. So some people maintain that that will now allow for soil aeration. But I have got so many earthworms in this soil that I feel the soil is aerated enough. With planting your tomatoes, you want to have a decent spacing in between them. But what is nice about this method of trellising is that you can actually come a little bit closer. So normally you would space your tomato plants about 30 to 40 centimeters apart. I'm able to actually grow really nice tomatoes by spacing them about 25 centimeters apart. Okay, so these are tomato plants that I had grown over winter in my greenhouse, and now they're already quite big. So I'm going to plant these 2, and then I have some seedlings which I'm also going to plant. These are the yellow cocktail tomatoes. So nice, so sweet. Okay, so they are already in their little bags. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to dig a hole big enough to be able to accommodate them. Oh, I must just show you the earthworms in this garden. Don't know if you can see this. Look at that. Look at that. It's so fertile. And that's just layering compost on the top. I don't do it once a year. I do it whenever I'm planting something new, then I put more compost on. But I know some people, like Charles Dowding, he only does it once a year. Right, so I'm just going to dig my hole. Let me just test it quickly. Oh no, some more. You can even go a little bit deeper than what the container is that your tomato plant is in, because it will just form roots all along the stem where you've planted it down deeper, and then it will just give it more security, or whatever, make it more secure. Oh wow, look how beautiful those roots are. I didn't expect it to have so many roots. Okay, yeah, that's grand. Just bring in that soil, frame it down. Right, so I built this structure last growing season and I'm so happy with it. I was inspired by James Prigioni. Go over to his channel and have a look how he built his, but this is the low-cost budget version. I think I can actually put a support across on the ground because it is a little bit wobbly, so that's why I have to have the brick there, but I will do that still. I've also made my own like homemade trellising things with pegs and twine, which I used last season, and it works really well. This tomato plant I had sort of trellised in the greenhouse, and so it's already got its twine around it, and I've just tied it at the bottom. But I'll show you what I'm going to do with the ones that I'm going to plant, the seedlings that I'm going to plant, and how that will differ. But this also, it works just fine. I'm very happy with this method too. So what I'm going to do is, here's my twine, and then this is, it's the twine, it is a popsicle stick, and then it's a peg, a clothes peg. And then I twine it around the stem of the plant, and then I just wrap this round here. Then I use the peg, hang on, let's get, to fasten it so that it stays like that. So then as the plant is growing, I just keep twisting it round like that. There you go. Then when it gets little shoots like this, then I break those off. And as it grows up, but I did leave a second one, because as this one is growing, I'm going to just tie the twine around here, and then I'm going to attach it up here as well. As the plant grows, I start to release it at the top here. Then eventually it's going to hang, and I mean, like I said, these things can grow like 3 meters. Then it makes like a coil at the bottom as I'm releasing it as it's growing. I'm also going to continue, let me just put this right. I'm also going to continue pulling off the bottom leaves. So below the first truss, here's my first truss, and then as the trusses ripen and I've harvested them, I start to pull off all the leaves, so that I've mainly just got leaves here, because those leaves are the older leaves, and this is where most of the photosynthesis is going to take place anyways. And so eventually I'm just going to have this stem, and it's going to coil down at the bottom, and then I'm always going to have my new growth about here, and then I'll be harvesting like that. Let's have a look at how I'm going to do the seedlings which I'm going to transplant. Now when you're transplanting your seedlings, you can dig the hole and then place a knotted end of the twine underneath the little seedling in the soil, and then it's secure underneath, and the roots will eventually grow around it, and then you can start to twine and train your tomato plant up that way, the same as what I have done with these ones. Okay. These are the indeterminate tomatoes of a variety that I don't know, because I saved it from seed from a tomato that I had bought at the shops. So what I'm going to do with these tomatoes is, because they're only going to grow about as tall as this. I'm going to just use a stake, a pole in the ground, and then I'm going to hit that in like that. Then I'm going to plant the tomato in next to it, and as it's growing up I'm going to continuously tie the tomato plant on, you know, just to support it so that it doesn't flop over. I might need to put a couple of more poles around it or stakes around it, just to prevent it from falling over, or it depends how big and how bushy it gets. You'll notice this bed has still got lettuce in it, so this isn't a good example of intercropping. So while the lettuce is still producing, I've got my little tomato seedlings growing up, and then eventually when it gets too hot I'll be able to remove these lettuce plants, and then my tomato plants will be established in the same bed. So these are two ways of trellising your tomatoes. There are other ways. There's the Florida weave, where you would put two stakes in the ground, and then as your tomato plants are growing up, then you're going to weave the twine in between them like that. And another way of, specifically for your indeterminate tomatoes, is you could take a welded wire length, and then you can sort of make a circular cylinder with it and allow the tomato plant to grow in that, so then it can't fall over on the ground with that method. But I find these methods are quite simple, and you know, they're cost effective as well. Thank you for joining me today, and I really hope that this guide has been useful to you, and if it has, then please share it with fellow gardeners and like and subscribe, and don't forget that notification bell. And I hope you have a fantastic day further. I'll see you in the next video.